Okay.
Good? Yeah. Okay. All right, my instructional video is on throwing of darts, or the sport of darts. I'll start with the history and origin and a little bit about it. The sport of darts has a long and decorated history, and it dates back to the Middle Ages. Originally, the sport began as a contest between warriors during lulls in battle. The soldiers would heave short throwing spears into upturned ends of wine barrels. As the competition evolved, targets were made, and that led to the use of tree slices as a target. And the tree's natural rings were perfect for scoring. During the winter, forced the sport indoors, where shorter darts and standard rules were adopted. Darts likely evolved from archery and spear throwing. Henry VIII of England and Charles VI were said to be among the first dart throwers. Throughout the establishment of the British Empire, soldiers would visit drinking clubs with built-in dartboards. The development of modern darts was closely associated with English pubs. Darts spread and locals picked up the sport, and it became fairly common. It was commonly believed that to hit the center of the dartboard, also known as the bullseye, with the dart was pure luck, but in 1908 an innkeeper demonstrated that it is indeed a game of skill. Darts is now accepted as a popular social and sporting activity. Tournaments are held in every country, and millions worldwide enjoy the game. The dart itself became standardized as the sport became a general pastime. The barrel was typically a piece of wood about 4 inches long, with a metal point stuck in one end and feathers on the other. In 1898, an American patented a folded paper flight, and in 1906, an Englishman patented the all-metal barrel. Around this time, the numbering system on the dartboard devised and gained acceptance, placing 3 crates end-to-end from a brewery called Hockey & Sons, which supplied beer to the southwest of England, marked the standardization of the throwing distance. The crates were 3 feet long, making the distance from the tow line to the board about 9 feet. The crates from Hockey & Sons were reduced to 2 feet, and so 4 crates were lined up to mark an 8-foot distance from the board. This is supposedly the origin of the phrase towing the hockey. American servicemen stationed in England during World War II caught the dart fever, often bringing the flavor of the English game home to the United States, which is where we got it from. From young to old now, darts brings friends together as individuals and teams to enjoy the sport of darts. The high-tech game of darts many of us know today is much different than the medieval version that I was talking about earlier. Revolutionary electronics has elevated the excitement of the game to a new level, where the dartboards now have, when you throw a dart and it sticks in there, it automatically scores it for you. The popular game of darts worldwide extends the tradition of beginning and ending each game with a handshake, of course. 2 of the top players in the sport of darts that I found were Philip Taylor and Raymond van Barneveld. Philip Douglas Taylor, he's also known as Phil the Power Taylor, is an English professional dart player. He is widely said to be the best darts player of all time, having won more than 190 professional tournaments and a record of 16 world championships. Raymond van Barneveld is a Dutch professional dart player, and his nickname is Barney. He's a 5-time world dart champion and is the most successful Dutch darts player to date. Now I'll start with my instructional part.
Oh.
Is my spoon over there somewhere? No.
Is it in your bag?
I don't know. Right here. All right. So Nettie is my little helper. First, before we start, actually, you can sit down. Actually, first I'll start with the stance when throwing a dart, which is a pretty simple instruction. You need to make sure that your foot is behind the line, obviously, otherwise your throw doesn't count and it won't be counted. Otherwise your throw does not, okay, I already repeated that. Your foot should lead the progression of your throw, meaning the foot you place in front of the line should correspond with your throwing arm. So Nettie's right-handed, and so her throwing foot is going to be her right foot. So you can come over here. So let's just say that there's an imaginary line right here. Her throwing foot is her right foot, the same as her throwing arm. So that's going to be placed in front. When preparing to throw a dart, almost all your weight is planted on your lead foot. So most of her weight is going to be planted on her right foot. Her left foot is kind of just like a guidance of like balance so you don't fall over or, cross over the line, obviously. When looking at actually throwing a dart, we'll look at the mechanics of throwing the throwing arm first. It can be exactly described as a machine of three levers attached to each other by two joints or hinges and one joint attaching it to a fixed point. The three levers include the upper arm, so from the shoulder to the elbow. Oh my gosh. The forearm, obviously, the elbow to the wrist, and then the hand, which obviously the hand. The two joints or hinges are the elbow and the wrist. And finally, the joint that's attached to a fixed point is obviously your shoulder. When you actually throw a dart, you want to imagine your throwing motion like a parabolic curve. When breaking down the joints and levers, the shoulder is the only point in the process that does not change position. Therefore, your body should not move when throwing. So you're not twisting your body to throw it, or you're not leaning backwards to throw it. It's just your arm is basically the only part that's moving. The elbow stays in position when moving the dart backward. So when you're setting up to do it, this is a dart. Anyway, so basically you're like this. Go ahead and kind of try and mimic me if you can. This is the movement of backwards, obviously. Your elbow stays and it's raised just slightly when you move it back a little bit. And that obviously will help with acceleration. The wrist action is not really necessary. Most pros use the wrist snap because it helps in acceleration, but I wouldn't recommend it for beginners that don't have a natural gift to control it. Having less snap as a beginner thrower will actually improve your accuracy. So the less snap and acceleration, the more accuracy you'll have. The phases of the throw. Obviously, number one, aim. You need to aim at your target. Put your eyes, the dart, and the target you want to hit in one line, basically. Like he's doing. Focus the target, not the dart. Use aiming points on the target if you like. Just be sure to aim. The backward move, like I was explaining earlier, it should be a slow motion. It's just kind of a slight slow motion backwards. Not too fast. How far you move it back is kind of a personal thing, however, whatever feels comfortable to you. But it's good to move it back as far as possible because obviously